Hello and welcome to Balanced Existence. Today I have a really important message for this collective. The first cards I pulled was the Four of Cups and the Wheel of Fortune. And I already know that this is about, and I'm getting chills as I begin speaking this message, this is about the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs of our emotional journey. With the Four of Cups coming through, I'm picking up on this feeling of disappointment or lack or sadness of some kind. Just feeling like you're not really getting your way or that your circumstances aren't how you want them to be. And I'm also, there's a couple of directions that this reading is going to take me. The first is that I'm feeling like Spirit wants you to understand that and this is why the Wheel of Fortune is coming in, the purpose of life is to have these experiences. And although it can be different, especially from our egoic perspective that, it's our ego that so easily judges things as good or bad when it's simply a matter of pleasant versus unpleasant. And there's a big difference between that, because when we assign the egoic labels, which of course is a natural thing to do as a human, but I really want to dive deeper into this to kind of help us with this perspective shift. And when we assign those labels, like feeling joy and love and these pleasant emotions, these positive emotions, that is good, right? Like that is okay, that is acceptable. These kind of judgments we put onto it versus feeling sad, feeling down, feeling disappointed, feeling anger, sadness, guilt, shame, grief, that those unpleasant, more negative emotions, those are bad and wrong and we should avoid them, right? Like you can kind of see the difference of the matter of fact emotion. Like guilt is guilt. There's a definition of each of these. Shame, these negative frequencies. But when we assign the judgment onto them as instead of them just being unpleasant, but like bad, like they shouldn't exist or that they should be avoided, we kind of get into a slippery slope because we enter this territory of not flowing with life. Like we're having this resistance towards life and what is, because ultimately, so much of life is out of our control. So it might seem ridiculous to think, well, how am I going to go through life pretending like, feeling sadness is good? But that's not the point at all, right? The purpose is to go through life recognizing a moment of sadness, like this Four of Cups, recognizing that that's unpleasant, but at the same time having this positive acceptance of it, because acceptance is a positive trait in these labels, right? And even if we can have this appreciation for it, then you're really getting into this kind of juicy manifestational territory, because then, when you know what's making you sad, then you, by that same effect, have greater clarity as to what would have made you happier, or what you would rather experience or where you would rather be emotionally. And so in that way, if you choose to have this perspective, because this is a choice, you can totally choose to continue going through life feeling like a victim of these more negative or unpleasant emotions. But if you choose this perspective, then you really can never lose, because even when you're going through a negative moment, and even the terms negative, positive, those are kind of even entering into territory of judgment, I would say, kind of like saying good or bad. What I really want to be categorizing them as is pleasant and unpleasant. So, but you cannot lose if even during an unpleasant emotion or experience, you're able to take a step back activate your observer mind and recognize that there's something that you can accept here. And there's something that you can even appreciate and love and value here. Then suddenly you are saying yes, just as the universe says yes to you, right? We know that in this manifestational world, when you embody a particular mindset and emotion and feeling, the universe says yes to it, right? So imagine if we took that same approach and we did it right back to the universe. If the universe gives us some kind of test or some kind of challenging moment and we say, yes, I accept this. This is teaching me something. And maybe I don't know what it is right now, but I know that every experience I go through in life is leading me to my highest path and the person I'm meant to be. And I trust in myself. I trust in my intuition to navigate this in the best way possible. And if I make a mistake, I know I'll learn from it. And I know that I'm divinely guided and protected. And then you're kind of entering this rampage of just beautiful, positive, encouraging, inspiring, empowered beliefs and thoughts about yourself and about your life. And so, like I said, you simply can never lose. So that's kind of one direction that this reading wanted me to take, because with the Wheel of Fortune, it's talking about how this is a natural ebb and flow of life. And we talk about this a lot on the channel, but we know at least on an intellectual level, it can be harder to embody this in a moment of difficulty, but we intellectually know that it's not about the outcome, it's about the journey, right? But when you're in these moments of unpleasant emotions, you are being put to the test, and it's a moment and an opportunity for you to show up in alignment with that. So if you're being tested or challenged, that's your chance to say, yes, no, I understand the Wheel of Fortune, and I will not spiral into unpleasant emotions. I will accept them and I will allow them, but I will also see their value. And by that nature, I will then alchemize it into positive and pleasant emotions. So, and without resistance, right? Because as soon as there's some kind of expectation of, okay, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or okay, I've been feeling this way for a long time and I don't want to anymore. As soon as there's any kind of expectation that leads to some kind of disappointment, then you're kind of back in that resisting state. So another point that I wanted to make about this is this idea of the beliefs we have. So I don't know who in the collective this is going to resonate with, but I feel like there's some belief system in place where maybe you'll be feeling really good for days or weeks or even months at a time, and then you'll go through some kind of period of a challenge, again, a test from the universe, but like this Four of Cups energy where you're being faced with some unpleasant emotion. And you might think to yourself in that moment, consciously or subconsciously, man, just when things are going well, I always end up back in this place of negativity or bad emotions. And there's this kind of limiting belief system or paradigm in place where you have this belief which then kind of dictates your reality that you're inevitably going to end up back in this place. Like you're just cursed, and no matter what you do, you can't catch a break. When the truth is that, life is not meant to be lived in this perfectly pleasant state with no challenges, no circumstances that cause discomfort or anything like that. And so when you have this belief, you're creating this world in which your baseline, or like the default mode that you're always going to come back home to, is one of negativity or so-called bad emotions, just unpleasant feelings. But what if we flipped that script and when we were in that moment of that Four of Cups sadness or disappointment or challenge or discomfort, and we said to ourselves, oh, you know what? It's inevitable that I'm going to end up back in a place of positivity and joy and pleasant emotions. So I don't really have to worry about this right now. And that's what the Wheel of Fortune is getting at, is what goes up must come down. What goes down is going to come back up. And so it's also a message of when everything's going well, not to take it for granted, and to understand that there's inevitably going to be a time where you might be feeling a so-called bad or negative emotion or any type of experience that's unpleasant or just causes discomfort. And that's okay too. So there's kind of this peace in knowing that the wheel will always turn. And so lastly, for our tarot cards, I pulled the Queen of Pentacles and the Hierophant. So I just find this to be such a beautiful message of your divine feminine and divine masculine, not necessarily correlated to gender, but rather the archetypal balance that we all have within us. So when you're able to embody and accept this Wheel of Fortune aspect of life, you're really stepping into this balanced existence of this Queen of Pentacles being the independent, abundant divine feminine, and the Hierophant being this, philosophical, always learning, building your structure of beliefs, divine masculine. So I find that this is such a beautiful message to really tie in these pieces within us. And for our oracle cards, we have 3 that popped out. And all 3 of these cards are green. So I'm really picking up on heart chakra opening and nurturing. And I got chills as I said that. So even if you're just putting your hand on your heart when you meditate, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just giving some extra love and nourishment to your heart can really go a long way in this time. I'm also hearing like the parenting of your inner child. If you're in this Four of Cups moment of feeling like, I just need to pout and feel bad right now, your parent of your inner child would soothe you and say it's okay to feel this way. It wouldn't try to change your feelings or force you into feeling better faster. It would simply soothe you, caress you, and reassure you that everything's going to be okay. So that message was coming through really strongly with all 3 of these cards being green, because every card in this deck is a different color. So that was a pretty strong message coming through. So the first oracle card is Journey, which of course is what we've been talking about this whole time, is understanding that this is what the journey is meant to look like. And it's only from our egoic mind and perspective that we begin to create these made up expectations that, we're entitled to this perfectly pleasant life and we should never have to be challenged, right? And so when you can kind of step out of that perspective, which misunderstands the meaning of life, you can actually begin to really enjoy the journey. And it says, focus on how far you have come, not how far you will have to go. You will find help in unexpected places. So again, just opening our heart, being open to blessings that come in. When we're in a more unpleasant state, reminding ourselves that we are destined to come back home to this default baseline feeling and foundation of pleasant, inspired, empowered energy, whether that's joy, love, appreciation, whatever feeling resonates with you, peace, flow, ease, that is your baseline, because spirit and source is love, is abundance, is all of these pleasant emotions that our ego strives to experience. And it's only these parts that break off from source that then become more what the ego terms negative or bad. But it's all coming from source. And Source's true nature is good, is what we call good, right? It's love, it's abundance, it's all these things that we feel positively and pleasant about. So we also have the card Clarity, which again is pulling me back to what I touched on before, which is that when you are having a moment of feeling unpleasant, you are gaining clarity about what will make you feel pleasant. And that's beautiful. It says, banish the fog of illusion, open your eyes to the truth, remember the perfection of who you are. And lastly, we have the card Dance. It says, find your heart's rhythm, step lightly and swing with the melody, close your eyes and let joy lead the way. I know this dance card is coming up for some of the collective because literally dance could be calling to you right now as a way to open your heart, but also because we're talking about the ebbs and flows of the Wheel of Fortune of this journey, and remembering or, envisioning dancing with life and dancing with the universe can be a really great way to kind of step into that energy, because you can kind of have this vision of what it looks and feels like to dance with somebody, and then that can kind of help you ease into that feeling as you start navigating through certain challenges. If you remember that it's a dance, it's not a fight, right? It's a dance of going through this journey, gaining more and more clarity, and just enjoying the process. That can kind of already allow you to have this lighthearted approach. So I hope that something in this reading resonated or planted a seed that is going to help you on your journey and in your growth. And as always, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.